A story for kids is essential. It's telling how the world is. It's telling why the world is as it is. It's helping to think on how to change the world from what it is into what it should be. So what to do when even a single story for kids could cost 10 reais? When a book could cost 30 reais, 60 if it's a new one? When in your country, work is poorly paid and highly taxed? Oh, and happy June 2nd, the first day that you might actually see some money for, if you are ever paid. So what do you do to soften the strings around you? Well, there's always going to be someone doing string literature. Let's go to the explanation. No, I'm not saying Professor Lâmpada or Lamp Teach is string literature per se. It's a comic. The issue is that beyond its immense value, disseminating both oral traditions and stories more traditionally known to people who might not have had access to them, Cordel also has a considerable influence in Brazilian literature. The case today is particularly interesting because the influence is not in the media itself, except for the support. Cordel has traditions, like using manually aligned letters or typewriters, or being written in rhyme and being poetic versions of the stories told, independently of the origin. These small books keep the use of colored paper and material created in less patterned and more manual way, which gives a certain personality to the final product. I don't know how usual this is, but it's certainly an interesting combination. Besides, of course, grabbing attention for being different and probably keeping the production costs low. Today we have 3 Cordel 3. So let's start with The Lamp Adventures. Some people change their drawing style to follow the manga trends. Other people just throw in English words for no reason. It's 12 stories, so let's just see a few. Okay, the first story would not be here, but it needs to be here, okay? You get what I mean. Lamp, what are your plans for the vacation? Staying at home and saving money. What a cheapskate you are. No, my 13th salary hasn't been paid yet, that's all. Jokes about teachers not being paid, how this is happening in Rio right now. Yeah, not only is this story from last January, we are in May and there are plenty of people who owned months of salary. Oh, teachers who aren't paid. I've never heard that before. I know, it's nothing new. What I mean is, this is still very current, and if one day that changes, hopefully, there will still be the historical value. It's a simple representation of a situation that's been common for years from the point of view of someone affected by it. In general, Lamp Teacher's adventures are between this acid comment with social criticism, something I really appreciate because Brazilians desperately need social criticism, and cartoonish comedy. Since I gotta stay home, I'll clean the fridge. There's too much ice. An Eskimo? Ice, sir? Yeah, something I have to say is that Jorginho's comics are hit and miss. The presentation isn't exactly elaborate, which goes well with the more manual and personal touch, but it also leaves me with a sense that the impact could be better with a bit more development. The next story, for instance, simply shows Lamp Teach affected by carnival. You understand the character's emotion until on the last panel he seems more like the vague relief of the second panel than annoyed or irritated as this story implies. Still, besides this booklet costing little, the stories from a personal point of view are interesting and are intertwined with criticism which, again, the country desperately needs, including 4 stories about how carnival excludes people who don't like it, here, and 2 about the absurd attention and spending with the Olympic Games. And, as a teacher, I can easily say that all the teaching organizations had problems due to the immense lack of organization and this horrible culture of spectacle that governments in Brazil keep using. Besides, I put out a flame. We continue Jorginho's comics with Count Kombrácula. Yep, Count Kombrácula. I love that even with this more personal and less professional presentation, the logo still has fangs with droplets of blood. And I don't know if it's because it's so ridiculous, but I love the design of this character. Combis, or transporters as they seem to be internationally known, are almost as present in Brazilian popular culture as Fuscas or Beetles. So this presentation seems more effective than the Minas accent in
Vampiro brasileiro.
According to the foreword, this character was a vampiric version of another the author used to draw a lot at the time, Genovevo. A transporter with glasses, an innocent look, and way more windows than a combi would have, I think. Maybe it's a combizin. When it comes to Genovevo, it's not as effective to me, but when it comes to Kombrácula, I love that name. The glasses build on the ridiculousness together with the cape, while Lamptich isn't visually interesting to me, even though I like Little Helper. For instance, in the comic we saw, there is a total of one panel in which him having a lamp for a head actually makes any difference. I immediately wanted to buy this one just for the cover. Unfortunately, the comic isn't good. It brings a total of 4 stories, of which the 2 one-page ones are the best, and only one really seemed good. The last story can be summed up as the Counting attacking a house, being stuck outside because of garlic, and then simply moving the garlic out of the way telekinetically. But if he can do this, why not throw away the cross the guy used against him? Or take the guy outside? It's not a limitation of his power if it doesn't limit its power. Even still, there's still a noticeable moment. The author says he wanted to make the character an anti-hero, but there's some good potential for a villain here, if this kind of image is used. The first, which is second best in my opinion, isn't good as a story in itself. Count Kombrácula attacks a man who has his tongue out calling someone sensational and says he's looking at a teenager. On one hand, I understand the problem. I've talked myself about the use of the word novinha and the video of someone in a poor community speaking about her daughter, who's less than 14 and is pregnant, who'd like to walk around without shame. Yes, I will insist on trying to find this video where people were trying to get 10-year-olds to be seen as legally allowed to have sex, because I think it's the biggest evidence of how hyper-sexualization, for instance in Carioca Funk, actually causes damage. On the other hand, show, don't tell. The only way of knowing what's the problem is the character's exposition. And I must say, there are people like me who look some 5 years younger, so an adult person could look like a teenager. But all of this can be easily corrected. You just show a school on the back with the person being seen coming out. Age association confirmed with an extra of social hierarchy if you indicate more clearly the man looking is an adult. For instance, if he has a suit on or has a mustache or something. Sadly, this issue is even more clear on the next one, The Cleanup, a 3-page story in which Kombrácula attacks people because he's outraged with what they did, but never says what they did. The closest to a joke is the ending showing a bunch of bottles of blood, which seems to be an attempt of a joke of the absurd. But jokes of the absurd aren't in the absurdity itself, but in how the characters handle the absurdity. That is, Magali eating a banquet, being asked, "You ate all of that in 30 seconds?" and saying, "Yeah, the soup is hot." There's no social criticism because it doesn't refer to the event, though in the end the author says both stories were inspired in recent events in 2016. The first, at least, refers to the attitude being criticized. Still... Vampire Gramophone. Yeah, meet Tamin, the only character that might have a better design than Count Kombrácula. Lastly, we have Professor Lâmpada, Lamptich, a 12-page comic from 2008. The cover is already interesting to me. While the other two had very simple covers, this one has something of an interesting retro style, and shows something that happens in the story without ruining the review. The story might be one of the most worth it here, especially if you like nonsense humor. Lamptich goes to take a test in the city of Shiaska. Could it be near Alaska?
Bolinhas! Bolinhas!
and finds a world that's quite different from what he knows. The first difference being the presence of a one-legged eye called Caolho, or One-Eyed, who guides him through the place. And I really appreciate the existence of a special needs character as capable as any other, besides the story treating Lampteach being cross-eyed as occasionally funny, but a mere detail. On top of bringing up an interesting question, I think it's good for when you want to read a cartoon. But I won't comment to avoid spoilers. End of the day, I can't say they are perfect, but I made sure to get more comics from Jorginho. Even the ones I didn't like weren't so bad. The same, unfortunately, can't be said of the comic in our next review. Is telling why the world is as it is. Shit. Train, train, train. Train, train, train. Why the hell do you pass through so many times, oh train? I have no idea why I'm singing Elvis with the word train. Yes, I will insist on trying to find this video where people were trying to get 10-year-olds to be seen as legally allowed to have sex, because I think it's the biggest evidence we... Shit. The only character that might have a better design than Count Kombrácula. Still, Vanguard... Here.